Welcome to the Teapot Reads. My name's Sam. I'm the Teapot. This is what I'm currently reading, and I'm so happy to see you today. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So about 6 months ago, I did 5-star predictions for 2022, and I had titled it Part 1 because I knew that I wanted to do another one of these videos about this time in the year to do sort of the back half of the year and my predictions, because I knew more and more books would be released or announced at least, and I would be reading some of the books that I predicted to be 5-stars so I could reflect on it. If you want to see that video, you can check it out here. I will link it above. I think it's on this side. I will also link it down below, as well as my first 5-star prediction video where I actually pulled some books off my bookcase and talked about which ones that I hadn't read that have been sitting there that I thought would be 5 stars. I'm not doing that portion of this video because I haven't read most of the ones that I predicted would be 5 stars yet, and I feel like, you know, maybe not time to do it again. But I do want to talk about books for the second half of the year that are coming out that I think I will read and love, and they will just be 5-star reads. I think in the part 1 video, I did talk about a few books that would be coming out in the second half of this year. I know for sure I talked about Bloodmarked, so I'm not going to mention it here. I think Bloodmarked will be 5 stars. There's a couple others. Check that link if you really want to know, but for the most part, those were books that have all come out by now. And I have actually read 3 of them that I thought were going to be 5 stars, and none of them were. So that's a little disappointing. First off was House of Sky and Breath. I have, I think, a reading vlog up for this that serves as also a review. I gave it 4 stars at the time. I'm thinking that was a little generous because the further I get from the book, the less I loved it. And I didn't really love it originally. I don't think it's lower than like 3 stars. It's probably not lower than 3.5. But this book was a bit of a disappointment, and even though the ending was exciting, I disagree with that ending. I don't think that was a very accessible ending for people who just read the Crescent City books. And if you only read the Crescent City books, you're probably like, okay, I guess. The best part, I think, was not even that great. The other ones that I read, the other 2, I both gave 4.5 stars, and I read Gallant. I actually read an arc of this, and I do have a full review up, so I will post that and link it above below. You'll see it. I gave this 4.5 stars. The vibes were immaculate. I really liked our protagonist, Olivia, and I loved the way the magic worked. There were some like weak spots, and I feel like the fact that this is marketed as a YA is totally wrong. I think it's a much more middle grade book. Only giving this 4.5 stars, but I actually feel really secure with that rating at this point. 4.5 seems really solid. I've sat on this really well. Again, the vibes are immaculate, a perfect springtime read, and I love the design. I don't know if you can see. I don't want to like spoil, but there's art. There are like darker pages. It's just really well done. This is one of the few cases where I prefer the US edition because it's also like square, which is neat, to the UK edition. So Gallant by V.E. Schwab. And a Farwilder Magic. I also gave this one 4.5 stars. I think retroactively I might reduce it to 4 stars just because a lot of the details of this book have really faded from my mind, which is a shame because, again, I remember while reading it, I loved the aesthetic. I really enjoyed our characters, and I loved the chemistry between them. The magic was just so-so, but the plot was good, and the ending was a really emotionally complicated ending that I don't think we see a lot in YA fiction, especially YA standalones, and it definitely delivered. If you're looking for a good autumnal standalone, A Farwilder Magic is fantastic. It's about a magical fox hunt. This one doesn't get a lot of billing on YouTube, but it's a magical fox hunt, and our 2 protagonists are basically outcasts for different reasons. It's kind of interesting, the parallels to like our world, because it is like fictional religions, but he's basically, I want to say, Roman Catholic and she's Jewish, so they're just not really seen as like okay people to be around by most of this frontier town. Really cool world building, also very cool. It's like frontier era but with magic and a little bit of like the 20s. Anyway, I loved that. I loved so much about this book. It's just the details have really started to blur, so that's why I'm probably leaning more towards a 4 retroactively, but well worth the read. I'll be keeping this one on the shelf for a while, if not forever. in a probably surprising turn of events. At least it's surprising to me because I am very, very liberal with my 5-star ratings. I tend to give them out quite a bit. I've only read 4 5-star books so far this year, and they didn't even start like hitting me until summer, basically. So real quick, just want to go through those. I am planning to do a ranking video of my top 10 books of the year so far, so I'll go a lot more in depth there. But so far, the only 5-star reads I've read are A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, which is a historical romance, which may be also very surprising to see on this list because I don't read a lot of historical romance, even though I enjoy it. This is great. This had the angst, the drama, the romance, the chemistry. The writing was phenomenal, like sparkling. The writing was sparkling. So we have Viola Carroll, who is a transgender woman, and she was basically presumed dead at the Battle of Waterloo. She didn't die. She took that as an opportunity to leave her past life and restart as her authentic self. And then we have Viola Carroll's best friend since childhood, the Duke of Gracewood, who, after his best friend has died at the Battle of Waterloo, has sunk into this horrible depression, very changed man. And Viola comes and she's trying to help him, but she doesn't really know how to tell him who she is and that this has always been her, and he just hasn't been able to see it until now. It's not all angst. It's not all this game of like, will she tell him? Will he figure it out? That's only part of the book. After that is past, the novel still is fantastic. Again, the chemistry is great. The scenes are great. The side characters are great. I really believed everything that was happening in this book. And like historical romances tend to be, while it's like a standalone in the fact that this is really the only one we'll see between the Duke of Gracewood and Viola, we will get at least one other book in this like connected series about Bee and Amberglass, I think is the next one, which I'm really curious about because like Amberglass threw me for a loop by the end of this novel. Obviously strongly recommend. This was 5 stars. If you're new to historical romance, I would actually recommend this one because it just does so many things so well. Again, the romance is like fire. Okay, it's fantastic. And then I think this was the book I read after that. This is In Other Lands by Sarah Rees Brennan. This book's a treasure. This book is so important and special to me. I know I just read it. I think I might either this year or next year. It won't be very long from now. It'll be like probably within like 8 months. I think I'm going to buy a second copy to annotate it because it's just a precious book. I read this so quickly and it's a chunker. I just could not look away from the page. It made me feel everything and it was so special and so good. You follow Elliot from ages 13 to 17. He finds out he can see this magical other world and so starts going to school there. It's a very different school. It's more of like a war training camp. I think I've compared it to Camp Half-Blood more than Hogwarts, and you're just following him as he really discovers, I don't want to say himself because that's a little cheeky, but discovers that he is worth being loved and the value of found family, and just learns not to just hurt everyone who comes in contact with him and actually embrace that other people might care about him, while also finding things to care about that he probably wouldn't have had he stayed in the human world. That sounds so deep, doesn't it? It's just a special book. It's just such a special book. You should read it. Then we have a book that would have been on my prediction list had I not gotten an early copy. It's not out yet. Pre-order it now. It's Babel by R.F. Kuang. I will have a full review coming out. You've probably heard about this book. I have a vlog out, which you can go check out because I talk about it a bit in there and it's spoiler free. This book is also about sort of the failure of British colonialism and empire and how that is awful and really bad. To simplify things massively, the thing that like grabbed my attention and the only thing I'm going to tell you about in this video is this tag on the top: From award-winning author R.F. Kuang comes Babel, a thematic response to The Secret History and a tonal retort to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell that grapples with student revolutions, colonial resistance, and the use of language and translation as the dominating tool of the British Empire. And my final 5-star read, I actually only finished like last week, and I'm obsessed with it. I can only think about this book. That's Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Fucking hell, this is an amazing book. Holy gods. Oh my god. I can't express enough just the sheer intensity of which I adored this book. I thought I would like it. I didn't think I would love it this much. You've probably heard about this book or seen it around. It's worth it. It's like horror fantasy, or more like horror sci-fi fantasy. It's epic sci-fi space opera. I don't know. It's set in space, but there's magic. It's great. It's just fantastic. Yes, there are lesbians. I think more prominently it's a fantastic whodunit. Only half joking. I love Gideon. I love Harrow. I loved all the side characters. Well, I didn't love them, but like, if I didn't love them, I loved to hate them, you know? That kind of thing. I haven't started Harrow yet. It is my next read, and I'm salivating at the mouth for Nona and contemplating requesting an arc. But the wait's not super long at this point. It comes out in September, so we'll see. 5 stars. 5 stars. This book has taken over my life. But what are the books I'm excited for? What are the ones I think are going to be 5-star reads? First of all, we have A Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexandra Rowland. The US release date is August 30th. I have a couple different UK editions pre-ordered. I do not love the American cover. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. I don't love the UK cover either, if I'm being honest. But I like it more. A Taste of Gold and Iron is a standalone, I believe, which is a shame because my heart is really yearning for an epic fantasy series, like at least a trilogy featuring queer characters as the protagonists. Like, please give me that. Someone, I don't just want to stand alone. Gideon's kind of delivering on it. Kind of. But Taste of Gold and Iron, it's, from what I understand, very gay. Yay. Basically, Kaju is the prince of the kingdom, and he's paired up with a bodyguard. That's where the romance is, if I'm understanding it correctly. And they have to investigate a break-in that happened. The magic system I've heard is really cool. I think it has to do with, like, you can, like, taste things. You didn't see me, like, touching the thing the camera's sitting on, but that's what I was just doing. And so that means, like, I guess, like, forgery is, like, really illegal. I'm not really sure exactly how it works. I've just heard it's really cool and really well done. I think I'm going to love it, partly because, again, I'm looking for queer fantasies. Give them to me. LGBTQ plus representation in fantasy and in science fiction, but particularly in fantasy because that's where my heart is. I want more of it. And yes, I do have a lot of titles on my shelves that I'm going to read and could read any moment. But I'm also just always looking to add more because that's what I want to read. That is my top priority, basically. I also think it's going to be 5 stars just because I've seen so many positive reviews about this, and it was like haunting like the edges of my consciousness. Like, I knew this book existed, I did, but I didn't really know it existed until Goldsboro put up their like pre-order for it, and I was like, yeah, that does sound good. I should just buy it. So that's the edition I've pre-ordered. The next book I just know is gonna be 5 stars is Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. I'm so excited. This one releases on September 6th in the US. I know it's gonna be 5 stars because it's Aiden Thomas, and I fucking loved Cemetery Boys. That is one of my favorite books. It is so good. If you haven't read it, it's totally worth it, and it's one that I might even reread, even though I feel like I just read it, and it's like stayed very clear for me. Anyway, Sunbearer Trials, I don't know that much about it. I don't need to know that much about it because Aiden Thomas's name is on it. I did not read his other book, Into the Neverwood. Is that what it's called? Peter Pan is not my thing. I don't care about it, but pretty much anything else he writes I will probably pick up. He has so many things in the pipeline. The Sunbearer Trials is a duology. There's some book tagged Gay Titanic in Space. I'm sold. There's a sequel to Cemetery Boys that was just announced. Like, dude, I will read them all. I will love them all. I would love to meet him in person and get my book signed, but Sunbearer Trials, already know I'm going to love it just because of him. And it is tagged, or it was early on tagged as like Hunger Games meets Percy Jackson, I think. And whoa, okay. Again, sign me up. I believe he can deliver on that. Also coming out on September 6th is Hooky Volume 2. I read and loved Volume 1 last year. I know this is a webcomic, so a lot of people have probably already read it, and I technically could read it before this book comes out, but I liked reading the physical copy of Hooky, and I don't have the patience to do the webcomic thing. I just don't. So Volume 2, I'm really excited for it. I think this picks up pretty much right after Volume 1 ended. This is about two, are they called witches? I don't remember what term they use, but basically they use magic. And they get in trouble with the government and also realize the government's corrupt when they're playing hooky from school. Really good. I loved it. I can't wait for Volume 2. It's going to be a fun, quick read. So this next one's a little bit of a cheat because I haven't read Harrow the Ninth, but it's Nona the Ninth, coming out on September 13th. I loved Gideon so much. There's no way this won't be a 5-star. I'm telling you, unless it is a Court of Silver Flame level of bad, it's a 5-star. I'm not even thinking about it. So what is it about? I don't want to spoil it. Not that the description says like anything, but in case you don't want any spoilers. It's the third book in a series. Also, the third book in a series is Grey Warren. This comes out October 18th, so only about a week after my birthday. A little longer, like a week and a half, but it's like a birthday present for me. And I doubt it'll be embargoed, so fingers crossed I can early copy. This is book 3 in the Dreamer trilogy by Maggie Stiefvater, and the last book she'll be writing in the Raven Cycle universe. I loved The Dream Thief so much. It was one of my favorite books of last year. I imagine I will also love Grey Warren. I'm a big Maggie Stiefvater fan. I love her writing. I think she's probably one of the best writers in the YA market right now, and it's kind of a shame she doesn't have a bigger, I don't want to say fan base, but like, I guess that's what it is, fan base. It's kind of a shame because it's really something special. Yes, I know there are problematic elements to her writing in some of her books, but still, there are much larger problematic authors out there that we all read. Sarah J. Maas, for example. It's just a bit of a shame because her writing really is quite good. Grey Warren, I didn't even look at the description for this one, and I'm not going to because I don't care. I want to see where Ronan and Adam's story ends. It's mostly Ronan's story, but Adam is in there, I think, enough to say, like, part of it's his story. Oh, God. Can't believe this trilogy in this world is coming to an end. Wow. And my final 5-star prediction of the year is Strike the Zither by Joan Hay, which comes out October 25th. I've not read anything she's written. I don't have a huge interest in her book that came out last year. It just didn't super appeal to me, but I've heard it's fantastic. Her other book that there's a whole drama behind it, basically the publisher screwed her over, Descendant of the Crane. I am really excited for the re-release, and I will be buying that right away and probably reading it fairly soon. But Strike the Zither really sounds like something I'm going to love, and I'm just going to read you the Goodreads description because I think it will compel you better than like me talking about it, just like will compel you to. The year is 414 of the Zin dynasty, and chaos abounds. A puppet empress is on the throne. The realm has fractured into 3 factions, and 3 warlordesses hoping to claim the continent for themselves. First of all, I fucking love empress warlordesses. Yes, give me the women. But Zephyr knows it's no contest. Orphaned at a young age, Zephyr took control of her fate by becoming the best strategist of the land and serving under Zin Ren, a warlordess whose loyalty to the Empress is double-edged. While Ren's honor draws Zephyr to her cause, it also jeopardizes their survival in a war where one must betray or be betrayed. When Zephyr is forced to infiltrate an enemy camp to keep Ren's followers from being slaughtered, she encounters the enigmatic Crow, an opposing strategist who is finally her match. But there are more enemies than one, and not all of them are human. This is the first book in a duology, and oh, I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for it. I think of all the covers I've shared today, this is probably my favorite cover. Easily. I don't know, it's not probably, it is my favorite cover of the ones I've shared today. It's like twofold why I think it's gonna be 5 stars. It sounds really good, and it's something that like me today likes reading, you know, these kind of, and I don't know if it's enemies to lovers, so I'm not gonna say that, but like opposing forces to hopefully allies, I guess we'll say. And I like the idea that we're already like in the war, right? It's very classic YA, like Shadow and Bone. It actually gives me sort of Shadow and Boney vibes. Probably can't explain it past that. But twofold, because it's also something that me, when I was first getting into YA, when I was in high school myself, would have loved this kind of book. It's just a recipe for nostalgia love as well as modern day love, I think. So anything that's got the nostalgia love is something I'm really excited for, and I think I'll be reading this one probably in the winter. I want to read Descendant of the Crane first, and it comes out first, so I have a little window before Strike the Zither comes out. So those are my 5-star predictions for the second half of 2022. What do you think you will be reading that you will love in the second half of the year? And it could be books on your shelves. It doesn't just have to be like new releases. There's a lot of books on my shelves that I think are 5 stars that I just haven't gotten to yet. So, I'm sorry. Sorry, books. If you are new here and you like this content and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. It means the world to me that you are here, that you're watching me. Hi. Thanks for being here. If you are somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. If you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. And most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye!